It's a bit of a tradition these days, a bank holiday weekend in spring and the British GT Championship heading to the Oulton Park International Circuit. We're a little bit later in the year than our usual Easter visit, but there are many other things that are looking fairly familiar, it has to be said. Leaden skies, the threat of rain, a dry track for now, but who knows what's going to happen over the next 60 minutes of British GT Championship qualifying that will set the grids for the two races tomorrow, Monday, bank holiday Monday, rounds 3 and 4 of the British GT Championship. The ambient temperature has been hovering in the high teens for the last few hours, the track temperature in the high 20s. A decent crowd have turned up for what is a busy day actually, plenty of support race action here on Oulton Park Saturday, but the headline event, the qualifying session for British GT, about to kick off. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box to talk you through the qualifying sessions. James Baldwin alongside me. James, Oulton Park, proper driver's track. I know it's somewhere that you've certainly enjoyed racing in the past here in British GT. And this opportunity that the drivers have now, 10 minutes, low fuel, new tyres, very little traffic. This is the kind of thing that racing drivers live and breathe for.
Proper driver's circuit, as you say, Andy. It's got a bit of everything. It's got elevation changes, slow speed, medium speed, high speed. A lot of people call it the mini Nordschleife, which I sort of understand. It really is one of those tracks, proper driver's circuit, as you say, and qualifying's all the more important around here. So today's going to be very important.
It is a fantastic circuit, tough to overtake, so qualifying therefore takes on extra significance. Down in the pit lane, the cars are getting ready to head out onto the circuit, and in amongst all of the activity, as always, is Bryn Lucas.
Yeah, the activity and the cloud cover as well, Andy. It's still nice and warm. It's quite muggy and humid here. Last year, Sam, your dad had a bit of an off, and that caused you to start further back than you'd like. What can you do, and what's been going on over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, last year obviously wasn't ideal, and I thought we had a quick car last year, and we sort of brought that over this year, made a few adjustments for the new tyre, and we seem okay. We seem quite quick. FP2, I think we ended P4, something like that. So the car does have pace, but I think everyone will jump now. So it's about sort of find the rhythm around here and putting it all together in one lap.
There's another race going on this weekend, Monaco, where pole position is key, and it's the same here at Oulton Park because how hard it is to overtake. How much are you guys putting on both qualifying sessions here, or are you looking at Q1 getting through this one for race 1?
Yeah, we always sort of try to make a setup better both of us. You sometimes go more towards the arm, a bit more understeer, because you know how important that is. We've got no pit stop penalty in the first race as well, so we have taken that into account, but I'm still going to try and go for pole in mind, definitely, and I think we've got a good chance, but I think a few people are hiding it. The Aston looks quick, and so does the Lambo as per usual, so it'll be interesting.
It's going to be a good one to watch. Thanks very much there, Sam. As Sam was saying that Richard's out there at the moment, as you've been watching. He only really gets 1 or 2 laps, probably 2 laps from the AM perspective to bank his time. Sam will only have 1 chance really, and that's backed up by what Johnny Adam told me earlier on. So it's all going to come down to the first couple of laps, Andy, and Richard's going to have the bit.
Certainly is. Thank you, Bryn. Good to hear there from Sam Neary. And yeah, well, look, let's talk about it, James. Difficult to overtake here at Oulton Park. We have seen cars win British GT races from further down the order, but generally that's in a weather-affected race, or there's been a safety car, or perhaps it was one of those years where we ran a longer race here at Oulton Park. Over the course of 60 minutes with just the 1 pit stop, it is going to be difficult, realistically, to win from outside the front row, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like the comparison that he made there to Monaco. It is very similar in the sense that quali is so important. It's so narrow around here, especially in GT3 with the aero wash and the dirty area. It is hard to overtake. So, yeah, and with the Pirelli tyre of this year, it needs to be done the lap on the first couple of laps. It's a very peaky tyre, and then it starts to fall away in lap time. So they need to get on it super quick.
So, GT3 qualifying session 1 is underway. There is a car that we may not be seeing out, I believe, Andre Borodin's McLaren. We'll wait and see whether it ventures onto the circuit. I notice, interestingly, the championship leading car, number 42, only now leaving the pit lane. So, actually not in that much of a hurry to get Charles Dawson plugged in and out onto the circuit. It is car 42 that leads the championship for 2C's Motorsport. 2 races in, and they've won both of them. Charles Dawson and Cian Jewis, well, they sort of won at Silverstone Silverstone last time out. They were actually second on the road, but the Paradigm BMW that won the race was not entered as a championship car, so they didn't score points. So race winners' points, I suppose you could say, have gone to Dawson and Dewis in both rounds, and they arrive here as the clear championship leaders in GT3, 30 points clear of this car, which at the moment is in the hands of Morgan Tilbrook, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. This, James, as you well know, has traditionally been a good McLaren circuit, but actually not many people predicting a McLaren pole today.
I was going to say, I think the Charles Dawson Mercedes, the Lambos, I've heard the Astons are rapid around. Big moment for Tilbrook there in the first chicane. That was close, but saved it, well done. And yeah, so the Aston here is very quick in practice, so I don't think the McLarens will be too strong around here, but that's the beauty of live sport, is we don't really know until it's crunch time, and here we are.
And of course, with 2 sessions, there are 2 opportunities today to grab pole position, because unlike the long-distance races, it's a different qualifying format. This, James, is what happened to Tilbrook. Too much speed going in.
Yeah, a bit too much speed, and then ran out of road effectively on the second part. But the McLaren's traditionally not the best over curbs anyway. I think maybe a Mercedes or a Lambo might have rode that curb slightly nicer, but saved it, and onwards he goes.
Good save that from Morgan Tilbrook, who's done many a lap around here in a Fun Cup car. I don't think there's a lot you can transfer from a Fun Cup machine into a McLaren GT3 car, but we know he's quick, and he will reset and go again. So yes, this qualifying session sets the grid for race 1 on Bank Holiday Monday. The second session sets the grid for Quali 2. It'll be the pro drivers out in session 2, and we then repeat the process in GT4, so we don't have any of this sort of complicated adding of lap times that we have to do for the long distance races. It is 2 qualifying sessions and 2 separate grids. At the moment, Giacomo Petrovelli is fastest. He has the outright fastest sector in all 3 parts of the lap, and he's going quicker again now on his second flying lap. Second fastest, though, at the moment, the number 55 Spirit of Race Ferrari of Duncan Cameron. Now, that's a car that it would be great to see mixing it at the front of the field. The Aston Martin, though, looking strong for the time being. Simon Orange about to complete a lap time in his McLaren. This is his first effort, and he goes 3rd quickest. So it's Aston Martin, Lamborghini now, Rob Collard 2nd, McLaren at Simon Orange in 3rd, 3 different cars within half a second.
Yeah, you got Petrovelli on a quick one here. He's going to dip into the mid-33s potentially, and the quali track record here is a 31.7 set by Jules Gounon in 2023. So we're still a long way off that, but considering it's the first session, we should see a mid to low 33. Then we'll see what the pros can do in a little while.
They've done a little bit of sort of selective resurfacing over the winter here at Oulton Park, and some drivers have said they've really noticed that that has generated a lot more grip. Petrovelli in the Aston Martin certainly enjoying that. Fell away from him slightly in Sector 3, maybe a sign that he's had the best out of the tyres, but he's still half a second clear of Kevin Say, who of course had that brilliant debut in British GT here at Oulton Park a few years ago, and we know he is a bit of an Oulton Park specialist. He's second quickest, half a second adrift though, as 3rd position is then Barwell Motorsports' Rob Collard, Simon Orange 4th, and 5th quickest for the number 9 Paddock Motorsport McLaren of Mark Smith. Here is Collard though, James, he's heading over Clay Hill. First sector is decent, it's a personal best, same in Sector 2, so he might be about to jump up from 4th place.
And we know Petrovelli had a fairly average 3rd sector, so if Collard hooks this up through Druids and then onto the final corner, he might be quids in for pole here. Seen Dawson go 33.9, so P2 for them. And it's worth saying as well, a lot of these cars have compensation penalties in the race from doing so well at Silverstone. So it's going to be a battle of best of the rest. Who's not got the penalty? They should, in theory. Big lap there from Collard. 37.
Wow. Quicker by nearly a 10th than Petrovelli. I didn't really see that coming. It goes to show how much time I think Giacomo lost in that final sector.
Yeah.
Petrovelli, though, has gone purple in sectors 1 and 2 on his next lap, so might be about to steal the pole position back away. Charles Dawson here carrying an extra 25 kilos of weight in the car this weekend too. The official wording from the championship is it's a categorisation compensation. Not the easiest of terms to wrap your teeth around, but he and Cian Dewis carrying extra weight. Is that going to hold them back from challenging for pole position? Petrovelli, I think, about to go back to the top here. Yes, but only by 0.03 of a second again, James. The final sector, nothing to write home about.
Yeah, maybe the Aston's struggling in that 3rd sector, or maybe it's driver error. It's hard to say from these off-board cameras, but yeah, still P1 though. It feels like he's got more in it. I think we could see a low 33 here. But Dawson, I think he might have been held up by the McLaren in Sector 2 there. He had a good first sector, but he's been, hit by traffic on this lap.
Yeah, championship leaders then third at the moment. It was a PB in Sector 1 though. Let's see what he can do across the line. And it's an improvement in time, but not position. Stays where he is. It's remarkably tight. Top 3 cars covered by less than 0.2 of a second right now. And Rob Collard is the middle of those 3. He's right out over the grass coming out of Druids. That will cost him time, but he only needs to find just over 0.03 of a second to take pole away. And at the moment, he is on course to do exactly that. He exits Lodge Corner, climbs up and over Deers Leap, and the reigning champion Rob Collard goes across the line and back to provisional pole position by 14 thousandths of a second. They are trading pole position times, James, but never by more than a few hundredths.
I was so committed on the exit of Druids, wasn't it? I'd love to see his throttle trace. Did he lift or not? But clearly he didn't, because he had a quick sector 3 there. So 33.6, yeah, P1.
This, meanwhile, is the Paddock Motorsport car of Mark Smith. Now, he was in the top 5 earlier, has dropped to 9th, but a personal best in Sector 1, albeit only a slight improvement, might see him climb a bit further up the field. Kevin Say exits Lodge Corner, and Kevin's done a personal best in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2, 6th position therefore for the 2Cs Mercedes, becomes 4th for Kevin Say, and only within 0.4 of a second of pole position. Right now, 1 second takes you from pole position down to Richard Neary in 8th position, and Mark Smith might be about to go within that 1 second bracket. He is 9th at the moment, crosses the line and goes 7th.
Yeah, the McLarens are struggling a little bit in this first session, aren't they? But there's a few cars actually. Like Nick Jones down in the Porsche. I've been hearing in practice they've been rapid, so surprised to see him so far down. Maybe they've got some issues there, but yeah, 1 McLaren in the top 5. That is surprising. Yeah,
you mentioned the Team Parker Porsche. Sven Muller, who is the pro driver in that car, has set the fastest time of the day so far in pre-qualifying, the second pre-practice session, a 1:32.7. So we know that when the pros get in, that car could be one to watch. But right now, it's down in 14th and last. Right then, there is still time on the clock. 1:10 to go, and Petrobelli is off now at the Britain chicane. He was still pushing James, but the sector times, and indeed that moment, suggests that maybe the tyres were crying enough.
You say that, Dawson is purple, Sector 1, so I would have thought at this stage of the session the tyres have gone off, but Oulton Park is a driver's circuit, so there is a fair amount of build-up as a driver. You don't just get out there and get on it from lap 1. You do sort of build into the session. You can see purple Sector 1 there, a 10th. That's a big gap, considering how close it is at the front. And what is he overall? He's 2/10 off P1 at the minute, so a strong second sector here might see him through.
And don't forget the 2 drivers ahead of him at the moment, Petrobelli and Collard, both had moments in the final sector on their quickest lap, so a good middle sector for Dawson could put him right back in the conversation for pole. Kevin Say, a purple final sector, goes 3rd ahead of Dawson, so at the moment the 2Cs Mercedes have 18 ahead of 42, but for how much longer? It's a PB in Sector 2 for Dawson. This is going to be very close, but this, remember, is where Collard had his moment. If Rob lifted at all when he went wide here a few minutes ago, that lift might have cost him pole position. It's a neat run through Druids for Dawson. He heads for Lodge Corner, onto the brakes in the Mercedes, pitches it into the right-hander, feathers the throttle, stays within track limits. The checkered flag is out. It will wave for the championship leader. Is he about to go to pole position? The answer is no. It's only 3rd, but 63 thousandths off pole. The top 3 are covered by a fraction over half a tenth, and Dawson gave that absolutely everything.
He did. He left quite a lot of margin with the track limits on the final corner, so maybe, because it's so close, that could have been the difference, right? But you've got Collard on a lap here. Is he improving? No, he's not 2 yellow sectors. Yeah, I think we've seen the best of them there. No green sectors, no purple sectors, really. So Collard will take pole in session 1.
Yeah, sorry, James. Yeah, 33.8. He had a personal best in the final sector, so he sort of fixed that little mistake that he made when we watched him going very hot through Druids a few minutes ago. But Rob Collard is going to start race 1, provisionally at least, from pole position. And we now wait to see what his teammate Hugo Cook for this weekend can do in his part of qualifying when he's up against all of the pro drivers. But Rob Collard, who's done many a lap around the island circuit, the shorter of the layouts here at Oulton Park in his British touring car career, now finds himself starting from the front of the grid in British GT. I think maybe his first Oulton Park British GT pole, but we'll have to get that clarified. Kevin Say, by the way, right at the end, crept in with another purple final sector and jumped back ahead of Charles Dawson. So Kevin Say, by 33 thousandths of a second, is quicker than his teammate, and within 300ths of pole position. So Kevin Say, on even deep into that session, both Mercedes actually were finding time.
Yeah, and you've got 4 cars within a 10th at the front, which for a bronze session is unheard of. Usually the gaps are quite big, right? But it looks like a pro session when you look at it like that. So Mercedes looks strong. The Aston, as we suspected from practice, looks strong. It's the cars we suspected. I'm just surprised we haven't seen more McLarens in the top 10. They all do seem to be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, Mercedes, McLaren, your top 5. So the best McLaren, Simon Orange in 5th position. Did see them doing a bit of work to the front. I think that was of the Petrobelli Aston Martin in the pit lane. Maybe a legacy of that bounce over the curbs. But it was Barwell Motorsport who came out on top in Q1. And Rob Collard provisionally has pole position for race 1 on Bank Holiday Monday. The Bridger Motorsports car is fastest in silver AM. That car 11th fastest overall. This is the full rundown. Rob Collard fastest from Giacomo Petrobelli, Kevin Say in 3rd, and championship leader Charles Dawson with that 25 kilos of ballast, remember. Well, it's actually balanced them out quite well because he's 4th fastest, but only 63 thousandths off pole position. Then the best McLaren, Simon Orange in 5th, ahead of Alex Martin, and the Paddock Motorsport McLaren of Mark Smith. Duncan Cameron's Ferrari was 8th, Richard Neary's Mercedes 9th, and Morgan Tilbrook further down than I expected from Optimum in 10th place. Then it was Ip, Howard, Price, and Nick Jones to conclude the 14 runners in GT3. But now we plug in the pro drivers. We have another session, another grid to set, and we could have a different story at the end of Q2. So an exciting first session of the day, Q2 to come next. The first qualifying session for GT3 at Oulton Park, the AM drivers took to the circuit, and it turned into perhaps a much closer session than many of us were expecting. Morgan Tilbrook made a mistake early doors, nearly looped the Optimum McLaren at the Britain chicane, but managed to keep the car pointing in the right direction. Would struggle though to only 9th position on the grid. Silver AM pole would go the way of the number 86 Honda NSX. It was Chim Chong Ip in the car for the first part of qualifying, whilst with 25 kilos of extra ballast in the car, the 42 championship leading 2C's Mercedes was still competitive and very much a part of the conversation for pole position. They ended up 4th though, just behind the teammate number 18 car. Second on the grid was Giacomo Petrobelli in the Blackthorn Aston Martin, who threw everything at it but ultimately came up just fractionally short of pole, which goes the way of Rob Collard. So, Barwell Motorsport on top in Q1, Rob Collard with the fastest time, but now, James, we have the pros in the car, and we start looking towards perhaps that lap record, the qualifying lap record, as you said, set by Jules Gounon a couple of years ago, a 1:31.713. Based on what we've seen this weekend, do you think that could be beaten?
It's going to be close. Conditions are nice. It's medium temperatures. Grip seems good. It's going to be a low 32, definitely, maybe a high 31, maybe a track record, let's see.
We'll wait and see. Brent Lucas, meanwhile, has our race 1 pole sitter.
I certainly do. So 2nd pole position in a row for you here at Oulton Park in the British GT. Rob, that's pretty good. Ricky's very happy, but he's not alongside you this time.
No, absolutely. It's fantastic to be back here at Oulton Park. I absolutely love the Cheshire circuit. It's so undulating, and it's very rewarding from a driver's point of view. So fantastic to make it 2 poles and 2 races here at Oulton Park.
You had quite a word there with Hugo when he got in the car. What were you telling him? Have you noticed some areas?
Yeah, the car's only really... We changed the car massively. Well, not massively, but we've changed it today. But we got one corner we can't quite get right, which is the exit of the first chicane. The car's bouncing and getting a big oversteer. And I just said to him, maybe just try and rein it back a little bit, because that's our weak point. But the rest of the lap, the Lamborghini is absolutely mega. It's so rewarding.
Well done, well done. It's one of the unique places where the AM comes in and gives the pro the notes. But Rob, well done.
Thank you very much. And I've got my driver coach and chief bottle holder here today.
Doesn't she look lovely? Well done.
Oh, cheers, mate.
To refer to Rob Collard as an AM still doesn't quite feel right, does it? Given the fact he's had a racing career, a very successful racing career in touring car racing for over 2 decades here in the UK. But yep, he is the AM driver in that car. Hugo Cook now takes over as the gold-graded driver, and we watch with interest to see how he gets on. Johnny Adam then at the wheel of car 7. This is the car that, remember, starts 2nd on the grid for race 1. There is a little bit of tape that's been put over that right front headlamp, so I think some bodywork got knocked loose when Petrobelli bounced over the curb in Q1, but hopefully that's not affected the pace of the car, because all things being equal, James, I do expect this car to once again be in the conversation for pole position.
That's it. I mean, it's going so quickly. It's tearing the bodywork off, isn't it? But the qualifying here is very important, because it's not aggregate like we've seen in the first endurance rounds. It's 2 sprint races on Monday, so it's 2 sprint qualies today. So this is for overall pole in race 2. So, yeah, should be exciting.
This, I think, could be a car to watch then. Sven Muller, as I said, quickest in pre-qualifying this morning, and the Team Parker Racing Porsche, we know, is a good car, and rear engine car good out of the tight corners, so that punch out of Shell, Britain's, Knickerbrook, Lodge Corner, there are places where that car could excel if they can get it working well through some of the high-speed stuff. Sven Muller, we know, is a quick driver. He's one of the front runners in GT World Challenge Europe this year, and well, I wonder, could we have Porsche on the front row? It's been a while since we were able to say that.
It has, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, you're right, the cars are all very, very different to drive, which can help with consistency and delivering the laps, but the BOP should bring them very close together, despite the fact they're all really different. But a quick first lap for Muller there, 32.1.
Yeah, 4/10 away from lap record pace, but he's in the ballpark already, isn't he? And crucially, a 10th quicker than Johnny Adam. If you're going a 10th quicker than Johnny Adam, I don't care what the scenario is, you're doing something right. So Sven Muller fastest at the moment, Adam second, Sam Neary third, Martin Plowman fourth. They're the four drivers to have completed a lap. Here comes Sandy Mitchell. Again, another driver we always expect to be somewhere towards the pointy end. What's his first effort going to be? It is good enough only for third, a 32.3. Now this, remember, is the sister car to the Rob Collard machine, which we just saw take pole for race one. So Sandy now really will feel a bit of extra pressure, I think, to match that performance in Q2.
Johnny Adam, purple sector 1, and I just saw Neary did a quick time, but it got disallowed for a track limit infringement at turn 1. So they've got rid of the sensors here at Oulton Park. It's more judge of fact now. They see if you go over the track limits visually, then they just give you a penalty. So, but yeah, so who's gone purple now in sector 1? Sandy Mitchell.
Yeah, not a huge surprise, I suppose. And the purple middle sector further back for Maxi Gertz as well. And here is Maxi Gertz coming through Lodge Corner. So a solid first sector, fastest of anybody in the middle part of the lap. This is the car that was third in Q1 in the hands of Kevin Say. It is fastest in Q2, a 31.936. We're still 2/10 or so away from lap record pace, but that's better than anyone's done at any point this weekend so far. And it's nearly 2/10 quicker than Sven Muller. Others, though, are going quicker. Sandy Mitchell, purple first sector. Johnny Adam crosses the line and improves his time, but stays third. I think it's that Barwell Lamborghini we need to turn our attention to next.
Yeah, so purple first, green second. So I think the Lambo's quite strong in the third sector, though. So we could see a track record here, or very close, if not the track record. So through Druids, neat and tidy through there, approaching the final corner. Nice heavy braking zone, late apex here. You've got the track limits on the exit. You can use a lot of it, but you've got to be careful because of invalidations. But the shortest run to the line, let's see what time he can do it then.
Let's have a look then. Across the line he goes. No, by 7,000ths of a second. He misses out on provisional pole. It's a 31.9, and oddly, it was the final sector where the car didn't look quite as competitive. He'll have another go at this, but James, you were making this point to me off air earlier on. The operating window for the tyres in the Pro session perhaps a little narrower than we saw in the AM session, because the Pros just get straight on it and ask so much more of the tyre. Realistically, maybe one more go at this? Yeah,
speaking of Sandy, actually, he said lap 2 or 3 is it.
Right.
So after that, you just can't extract the same grip from the tyre anymore. It's just not there. But Gertz are running slightly wide at Druids, but keeping it pinned. And we saw Collard in the first session. Even if you go off there, you can still have a quick third sector. So Gertz are across the line, 31.8 P1.
Wow, so a fractional improvement. He was already on provisional pole and now gives himself an enormous 62 thousandths of a second. Mind you, we had 4 cars within 62 thousandths of a second in Q1, and we could well see some others get in the mix. Here's the 97 Aston. We didn't see really a lot of this in session 1. The Beach Dean car that in session 1 had Andrew Howard at the wheel. It's now Tom Wood pedalling it up Clay Hill. They are, where are they? 6th quickest in this session then. So the Beach Dean car looking more competitive now, and it's improving again. Personal bests in both the first 2 sectors. Tom only needs to find half a 10 to beat Marcus Clutton for 5th.
Some green sectors. Interestingly, Muller in the Porsche went out there, first lap, bang, 32.1, and ever since has been nowhere near that time and has just pitted. So maybe they underfueled it and I've opted for that strategy. Maybe the Porsche just really lights up its tyres super quick. So very interesting strategy there.
Yeah, good point actually. Oh, and that's the 42 going slowly. Kian Jewis, is this a problem, or is he staying out of people's way to try and get some clean air? That's very slow, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he might have a problem, because even when the Lamborghini passed him there, he didn't speed up. So not sure what's going on. We do have a great view here in the commentary box of the last corner, but it seems okay. I think he was just getting some space, because you do get aero wash in these GT3 cars, even from about 2 or 3 seconds in front. So having an absolutely clear track in front of you is really, really helpful.
That was a very wayward moment, it seemed, for Hugo Cook, who's just gone 6th ahead of Tom Wood. Tom Wood's lap in the end never really came to anything, so Hugo Cook goes ahead. This, meanwhile, is Sandy Mitchell heading back out on circuit. He's got 2.25 minutes to go, so realistically, by the time he's done an out lap, 1 flying lap, maybe just an adjustment of tyre pressures. He clearly feels he's still got some more time in him.
Yeah, maybe a setup change, maybe a roll bar change. Oh yeah.
Marvin Kirchhofer, third quickest.
Yeah, wow, 32.0, so that came from nowhere. 'Cause the McLaren has looked like it's been nowhere all day, really. But Marvin, as usual, shouldn't be surprised. He can pull a lap out of anywhere, really, can't he? So, nice lap.
What a fantastic top 5 that is. Maxi Gertz, Sandy Mitchell, Marvin Kirchhofer, Sven Muller, Johnny Adam, then Marcus Clutton, who we are watching headed through the Shell hairpin. Perhaps not widely recognised on the same level as those drivers, but we in the UK know that he's every bit as quick as they are, and is showing that again in this qualifying session. Purple first sector for Kirchhofer. So Optimum have done something different in this session, haven't they, James? Because they're really the only car that is consistently able to unlock speed this deep into the session.
Yeah, and you can see Kirchhofer purple first sector, so let's keep an eye on him going through into the second chicane, I think that is now, so avoids the first curve. Looks neat and tidy through here, staying on the rubbered line. Yeah, looks nice. Sector 2 coming up, so 106.4 is the current purple Sector 2 split time. Let's see what he goes over the line with. Okay, so he lost a bit of time there in Sector 2, but still, he could sneak onto the front row, though, with a good third sector.
Yeah, needs a 1/10.5 or so to beat Sandy Mitchell. He's right on it, look, kicking up the dust ahead of Druids. Wasn't quite as wide as we've seen some others go, though, so shouldn't have lost any time. Hits the brakes into Lodge Corner, and now it's one more good traction zone down through the dip, over Deer's Leap, and Marvin Kirchhofer challenging maybe for a front row starting position. Can he do it? Answer, no, it's not an improvement. A 32.19 is just over a 1/10 of a second away from his previous best. So I think Maximilian Gertz might have done enough here. He's in the pit lane, so he's going no quicker. Sam Neary crosses the line and jumps up 1 position ahead of Tom Wood, who's sort of slipped steadily down the order through the second half of the session. And Sam Neary goes 8th quickest at his and his father Richard's local circuit. Not seeing an abundance of improvements elsewhere. Sven Muller a personal best first sector. A 22.4 though is a 10th or so away from the outright best first sector, and his middle sector of 44.2 is not a million miles away either. Big story though, James, you've just pointed out, is that the championship leading car we've hardly mentioned in this session.
It's close. I mean, they're 6/10 off, which isn't a huge gap, but still, P10 for the championship leaders is not good, and they've got the pit stop. Oh, this is race 2 though, so that won't count in that race. That's worse. Yeah. Kirchhofer purple sector 1 again though. This late onto the session is nuts. Yeah,
that car keeps getting quicker and will have to go quicker because it's just been beaten to 3rd place by Sven Muller. So Sven Muller, we said that car seemed to be fading. He'd saved something up for the final moments. So down to 4th now goes Kirchhofer, but it's a purple first sector. Middle sector's a 44.3. Maxi Gertz has the best time in that sector of 44.0. So not a great middle sector really for Kirchhofer. It will take something pretty spectacular through the final sector. He's really sort of having to hustle the car into the apex. He's backed out of it, I think, missed the apex. Too much speed into Lodge, and Kirchhofer will be only 4th. And almost ran into the back of the Barwell car as it came into the pit lane. Martin Plowman, I think, will be the last car still going of any speed, really, to see the checkered flag. He's down in 12th position right now. Personal best in Sector 1. Needs a 10th of a second to move into 11th ahead of McLeod. And he is able to do that. Goes 11th quickest there, Martin Plowman, who moves up to just outside the top 10. But it is 2C's Motorsport celebrating on one side of the garage. Certainly 2 good qualifying sessions there for the 18 car. Kevin Say was, I think, 3rd quickest in his session. Maximilian Gertz gets the job done in session 2. And they will be very pleased with their afternoon's work. We're also hearing there was another drama for Kirchhofer here towards the end of the session. Oh, very close, in fact, just over the edge of the road through his lots there, James. Looked probably more dramatic than it felt to him, but it definitely cost him time.
Fine margins, wasn't it? He just dipped the right rear off track, but yeah, didn't lose too much time, but yeah, enough to bail on the lap.
So, 2C's Motorsport fastest, but it's not the championship leading car, it's car 18 that was quickest in Q2. Maximilian Gertz fastest in the number 18 car and will start provisionally on pole for race 2. Beach Dean's Aston Martin in the hands of Tom Wood was the fastest of the silver AM cars. It is Mercedes from Lamborghini, Porsche, McLaren and Aston Martin, your top 5. Gertz, Mitchell, Muller, Kirchhofer and Adam, the top 5. It's a who's who of GT racing. What a fascinating second race that will be. Marcus Clutton 6th ahead of Hugo Cook, then Sam Nere and Kian Dewis, with Tom Wood completing the top 10. Right, let's hear from our race 2 pole sitter, Maxi Gertz, with Bryn Lucas.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Looking at the timing screen just there, it was mighty close, wasn't it, Maxi?
Yeah, it was actually a perfect lap. Otherwise, you are not on pole. I really enjoyed it. The car was great. Yeah, and I was not sure if it's enough for pole. I had a little waggle in there in the chicane, but I think on this track, an easy mistake results in a big time loss. It's super tricky here, but I like the track. So it becomes more and more to my favorite tracks here, to be honest. And it's the first pole for me in British. We've been many times on P2, but finally with 600s ahead of Sandy, which is benchmark for us here in UK. So in the end, super happy.
Top 14 covered by less than a second. Kevin, you're qualifying very quickly. You start P3 in the race come Monday. It sets it up nicely. You're going to hand Maxi a bit of a problem maybe if you get a great result, but it is hard to overtake here.
It is hard, but what a lap by Maxi. What a lap. 31.8, is that a new record? Maybe, but...
No, I don't know.
But yeah, in my session, I mean, we were very close. All the AMs were within 400, so in top 4. But yeah, it's going to be competitive. Monday is looking tricky, might rain, might not rain. But yeah, let's see. But we're in a good spot, I think.
More curveballs being thrown at it. Well done. It sets it up nicely, and maybe the championship run is back on. Well done, both.
Thank you.
I think it most definitely is, really. This car will be quick Monday, and they've got 2 opportunities to take some big points. They'll be starting on pole position for race 2. Q2 for GT3, pro drivers plugged into the cars, lap records just waiting to be beaten, and it was an ultra competitive session. Johnny Adam was out this time in the Blackthorn Aston Martin that had qualified on the front row for Q1, whilst Marvin Kirchhofer was asking everything of the Optimum Motorsport McLaren, as he also tried to put himself into the battle for pole. Tom Wood had the Beach Dean Aston Martin on silver and pole and inside the top 10 for race 2, something his teammate Andrew Howard hadn't quite been able to match in Q1. Sven Muller was quickest in pre-qualifying and got quicker and quicker as that qualifying session went on, whilst the Barwell Lamborghinis, as always, were in the hunt for a good result. It was 2C's number 18 car, though, quickest, and will start from pole in race 2. So, that's GT3 done, but don't go anywhere because we've still got 2 more competitive qualifying sessions to come. The GT4 cars now head to the circuit, and we have the same exact format, 2 10-minute qualifying sessions. The first one to set the grid for race 1, the second to set the grid for race 2. Slight variation in driver lineups here, though. In GT3, it is almost exclusively Pro-Am. We do have those couple of Silver Am cars, but generally Pro-Am, so a bronze-graded driver alongside a gold-graded driver, or platinum indeed. In GT4, though, we have this mix of Pro-Ams and Silver Cup entrants. Now, in the races on Monday, the Silver Cup cars, they'll have a few extra handicaps that they have to overcome. But in qualifying, James, it's an opportunity for those silver-graded drivers in particular to show us what they can do.
It is. They do have to carry 25 kilos extra, and then in the races, it's a 14-second compensation time just for being a silver-silver lineup. So it's tough. But it does make sense, you know, a silver-silver combo is naturally going to be quicker than a Pro-Am combo. So it should, in theory, make for a very close race on Monday, but it's a hefty penalty. You can see Hopkinson there going super wide at Cascades on the exit.
So let's talk about that then, shall we, as the lap times start to sort of come in over the next couple of minutes before the session properly ignites. This is, I would imagine, one of, maybe the toughest circuit to carry that extra weight at because of the undulations, the braking, the accelerating. Is there anywhere in particular where that's really going to affect the way that the car behaves?
I think it comes down to the length of the laps. I think you see at Spa, that will be a bad thing to have extra weight because it's just more distance carrying that weight. But you're right, with the hills here and stuff, over the chicanes, it can affect the balance quite a lot as well. Tyre wear can be quite bad when you've got more weight. And I think Oulton's pretty bad on the tyres given, well, you can see a Lotus there.
Dear.
What happened there?
Well, they've been off, I think, exiting Cascades. Which Lotus it was, I'm not entirely sure. 88, I think, maybe. I think it was 88. Ian Duggan, who had a drama at Cascades, looking at the live tracker. didn't seem to be any damage on the car, so I think he's okay. Anyway, James, continue.
I was just going to say, actually, the Lotuses are due a good weekend, aren't they? They've been so fast in the first 2 rounds. They just haven't had the reliability to put a result together. But surely we're going to see a Lotus win at some point this weekend. I'd be amazed if not.
Well, they've got 2 cracks at it, haven't they, on Bank Holiday Monday? And we know the car is quick. They qualified really well at Donington, only to then be penalised after qualifying. They had to start from the back. Then at Silverstone last time, I mean, who can forget the heartbreak that they went through in the Silverstone 500 when they had a couple of cars that were in contention, but particularly the 84, Aidan Neaton, Josh Miller. They had dominated the weekend through qualifying, through the first couple of hours of the race, and then suspension failure, we think, at high speed took them out of a dominant lead and handed the victory in the end to Century Motorsport. That all means that championship-wise, it is Century Motorsport's Ravi Ramyeed and Charlie Robertson who share the points lead, early doors, I know, with Mark Warren and Jack Brown. They were the Donington winners in GT4. The best placed Lotus is the 84 machine, 8th in the championship. I mean, that simply isn't fair. That's not where they deserve to be, but they know that they've still got plenty of chances to try and get back into contention. Lap time disallowed for the 17 car. That had been fastest, James, but with that lap time deleted, it is the Donington Park winning car that now has provisional pole.
Yes, it is. But the other McLaren, as you say, went quickest, 3 purple sectors, but then got a track limit at turn 1. So he did go super wide at Cascades as well, so definitely just finding the limits early doors in this session. The same tyre in GT4, so it will be as peaky, but there's no tyre warmers in GT4, so it will take them a little bit longer to get the heat and the pressures up. So I think we should see the quickest times in this session at the end of the 10 minutes.
And of course, less aerodynamics on these cars, less power as well, but the car does move around a lot more. You can see just through that shot through the chicane, the way that Mark Warren's McLaren is pitching and rolling around. Not a lot, not as much as your average road car, but certainly more than the GT3 machines that we saw out earlier on. Good lap here from Mark Warren though, personal best sector 1. Fastest of anybody it was in Sector 2, but he's been beaten now by the number 84 Mahiki Lotus of Josh Miller. So Josh Miller, yet to put a properly representative lap time in, is going quicker than the McLaren. It will be the McLaren that gets to the line first though, so we'll see what Mark Warren can do. Hopkinson's gone back to pole. Is Warren going to be able to beat him though? Across the line he goes, needs to find 82 thousandths of a second to do so, and he finds well more than that, a 141.9. By 2/10 he is quicker. This is Miller though, and he goes to the top by nearly 7/10 of a second. That's an astonishing effort, 141.297. No one else can get close right now.
It's a good lap. It's still 1.5 seconds off the quali track record, and we saw that tumble at Silverstone, so we know these current GT4s are quick. The track conditions here at Oulton seem pretty good looking at the GT3 session, so I think we'll see some of the silvers dip into the 40s at least.
Yes, I think it was in the second session generally that we saw the lap records beaten in GT4, so we'll wait and see when some of the pros get out in the cars whether they're able to get a little bit closer. This is the Century car in the hands of Ravi Ramyeed, former Ginetta racer, 4th quickest at the moment and within a second of pole position. The joint championship leaders personal best in Sector 1 as well. We're right on board with Mahiki Racing though as they head over Hilltop.
Yeah, and you saw in the first chicane there, he actually clipped the bollard, so the bollard went flying, so using all of the track available to him into the Knickerbrook chicane, so heavy braking zone, avoiding the curb on the right, interestingly. You can usually mount these curves in the GT4s as they're so high and soft, but exiting the chicane then needs a good run up the hill, and we've gone off board.
This is Luca Hopkinson, meanwhile, through Lodge Corner. Average first sector, but got it all back and then some in Sector 2. He's 3rd quickest now. Miller fastest. Warren 2nd. Hopkinson becomes the best McLaren again, but it's not good enough for pole position. It's that 3rd sector, I think, where the Lotus is so strong because Hopkinson was knocking on the door of pole position until that final part of the lap.
Yeah, and we're back on board with the McLaren going through Sector 3, last corner. Running it out wide, I think he's going to set up the next lap as best he can, moving down into Old Hall, braking just after the board on the left, down a gear, and we've got the BMW then going through Sector 3. Ravi Ramyeed, who won at Silverstone, late apex in the last corner, and it's a decent lap. He's green, he's not purple, but it's a personal best.
Yeah, might struggle to challenge the Lotus, but could get amongst the McLarens here. He's 4th quickest at the moment. And that's where he stays. A 42.1 is an improvement in time, but he stays on the outside at the moment of row 2. Ian Duggan, slowest in the session right now, but remember he had that spin, we think, on the first flying lap of the session. He's regrouped and puts at least a representative lap time in, but still slowest of the bunch for the time being. But you have a moment early on in qualifying on cold tyres, James. It can take a moment, especially for an AM driver, which Ian is, to regain confidence.
Yeah, and I've driven the GT4s without tyre warmers, and it's so sketchy on the first few laps. You know, GT3 drivers, I think, maybe take that for granted a little bit, but it's a reassuring thing in this session as well. Even if you're slowest, you're only 7th. So it's just worth noting that as well, you know. Take the pressure off the drivers a little bit.
Good point. When we go racing on Monday, there's a good chance that you'll still be in the fight for a top 5 or maybe even a podium. You never know what could happen over the 60 minutes, and especially with a bit of weather on the way maybe on Bank Holiday Monday. Luke Hopkinson exits Lodge, second quickest at the moment. This lap doesn't look like it's going to set the world alight, does it? He's not improved in the first 2 sectors and, yep, carries that over to the end. He was very, very close, only about half a tenth away from his previous best, still over half a second off pole position, but Josh Miller, I think, James, is about to move those goalposts. He's going faster again.
Oh, big moment out of the last corner, but still committed. I think we might see a low 41 here, maybe a high 40. No, that mistake cost him lots in the last corner, but he's still comfortably quicker. So we're seeing a lot of field spread actually in this session compared to GT3. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Maybe it's driver related, maybe it could be BOP related a little bit as well. It's hard to get the BOP right with less cars. So Ramyeed approaching the line again, another personal best coming up for him, I think. 41.8.
And goes third this time, 10th and a half quicker than Mark Warren, so manages to split the McLarens for the time being. And the BMW keeps on getting quicker. He's on to what will now be his final lap of the session. As down the Lakeside Straight, heads car 69. So this is the third of the Mahiki cars. Stephen Lake, he shares this car with Jack Mitchell. Third car in that it's the third one we've seen. He's actually the second fastest of the Mahiki Lotuses, who actually, it's very easy to say that this is another Mahiki dominated session. It actually isn't. It's just that the 84 car is going really, really well. The other two have struggled, and this car doesn't look like it's at full speed heading towards Britain. So interesting that one car has found the pace. Is this perhaps, though, a clue as to why people are starting to back off, James?
Yeah, the umbrellas come out. Maybe, yeah. It's actually just started really pouring down with rain, hasn't it?
Yeah, heavy.
Quite heavy.
Quite a lot of rain anyway over on the start-finish line. Rain on our commentary box windows, hoods going up all around us. Now, this is interesting. It's come luckily at the end of a session, but that means that the teams really need to hurry up and get these cars in because they'll want to get them out for the 4th and final session as soon as possible. If the rain comes in now and the track conditions start to deteriorate, your opportunities to get good lap times in are going to be fairly limited in the second GT4 session, so we won't see any more improvements now, that's for sure. And pit lane is about to become a busy place.
That's right, and we're nowhere near the crossover point yet, don't get me wrong, but still, it can happen very quickly. A sudden downpour and you go out of the window for slicks, especially as these cars, as I said earlier, don't have tyre warmers. So this is going to be a very interesting Q2 for GT4, I think.
Yes, because they're going to have to try and get out there on slick tyres, but on an increasingly sketchy circuit, and with the pressure of knowing they've probably got one lap if the rain continues to get the time in. So Optimum go to work, changing the Pirelli tyres on the number 90 car. That car ended up 4th quickest. The next session has been declared wet, but how wet it gets is really the question, isn't it? It can be damp, and still the slick tyre can be the one to go for. So all of that slightly overshadowed the fact that the session had ended. Checkered flag is out, and it is Mahiki racing fastest. It is a really strong lap time, that, for Josh Miller, who is going to be starting on pole position provisionally for race 1 in the on Bank Holiday Monday. Century Motorsport were the quickest Pro-Am car, and Ravi Ramyeed will start 3rd on the grid for that race. Mahiki, though, to the top by quite a chunk of time, and Josh Miller will be very pleased with that, a 141.297, and well, maybe that is as close as we're going to get to that lap record set a couple of years ago. Mahiki's 84 car then quickest. It was the Luca Hopkinson Optimum McLaren 2nd. Ravi Ramyeed makes it 3 different makes of car in the top 3, and Mark Warren's Optimum McLaren in 4. Then it was Chris Salkeld in the 2nd Century BMW. Stephen Lake and Ian Duggan complete the GT4 field in the remaining 2 Mahiki Racing Lotuses. So, an interesting first GT4 qualifying session. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights. So our first GT4 qualifying session got underway on a dry circuit, but the overcast skies perhaps put an extra bit of pressure on this session, with drivers knowing that rain may have been just around the corner. Century's BMW was looking pretty quick. Ravi Ramyeed was in and around the top 3 all session, dropped down to 4th midway through, but did find a late improvement to get back onto the inside of row number 2. Luca Hopkinson was 2nd fastest in his number 17 Optimum Motorsport McLaren, but it was Lotus to the top. Josh Miller with a scintillating time, despite having to dodge some traffic. Half a second quicker than the rest. It will be Josh Miller on pole for race 1.
You have a lot of luck, don't you, when it comes down to qualifying? Great performance as well. You need the luck to transfer into the race, but it's a great start for you, Josh.
I'd like to think there's a little bit of talent involved in there. But no, honestly, can't complain with that. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised when I heard over the radio that we had a margin of about 5/10, because honestly, I thought the McLarens and BMWs were going to run away with it today. But no, tremendous job from the whole team, and huge thank you to my sponsors, First Flexi Lease and Zebo Design. But no, I'm curious to see how Aiden and the others can do in this next session.
When we talk about the race, though, look at pit stop compensation time. You're being a silver pairing, you've got the extra 14 seconds, but those around you don't necessarily have the same amount of time. Further back, they've got around 7 seconds and 10 seconds, so you've mitigated the loss that you're going to make in the pit stop.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we've definitely put ourselves in a good position for race 1. I mean, ultimately, I think it's 14 seconds, as you say, that we've got to try and break away from the others behind, which is going to be tough around here. And I think managing the GT3 traffic is going to be very much key to our success tomorrow. But, you know, obviously you've got the Pro-Am cars, the Optimum McLaren, which is very, very strong. So getting that gap is challenging at times.
Looking at the car very quickly in the race, you had very bad luck with the team last time out at Silverstone. I understand they've got to the bottom of the problem, so hopefully that issue won't come around here at Oulton Park, which is quite tough on the car, isn't it, with the undulating nature of the circuit?
It is tough on the car, but the team have gone through a huge amount the last 3-4 weeks just to ensure that everything's mint and in tip-top condition to ensure that we can really challenge for the win this weekend.
Good luck. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
So the final part of qualifying here at Oulton Park about to get underway, and well, now all eyes turn to the skies. We were discussing there whilst we were hearing from Bryn Lucas what the weather is doing. It's not heavy rain, I think that much we can say. It's not yet a downpour, but there are still brollies up around the circuit, and there's just this little bit of drizzle in the air. Even, James, if it's not actually slowing down the circuit, it's in the driver's minds, isn't it? It's that psychological rain. How difficult is it now, even for a pro driver, to go out in this situation and almost sort of convince yourself that you can still push?
It's a tough one. A little bit of water on the windscreen looks like a lot as well, so it can definitely put you off a lot as a driver. But we can see from the comms box, it had a very, very, very quick shower, but it's stopped raining now. It's still going to be fairly bone dry out there. The curves might be a little bit more slippy than usual, but you can see there the water running on maybe that section of the track, Island Bend, is raining heavier than where we are right now, and that's definitely another factor to take into account. It's not a big track, Oulton Park, but it can rain at different areas of the circuit, so yeah, it looks quite heavy at Island Bend, to be fair.
As someone who was born and raised in this area, James, I can assure you that we can definitely have a microclimate, even around a circuit like Oulton Park. It's just the things that the weather does in this area, particularly over a bank holiday weekend, I must say. It is rare that we escape the rain here at Oulton Park at some point over the weekend, and it has struck now just at the beginning of our final GT4 session. If the rain persists then, we would anticipate, I guess, that the first flying lap should be the fastest. Joe Osborne, by the way, has fed us a bit of information between sessions that they do allow tyre warmers on the GT4 cars these days. Those will be essential in these conditions, so at least the drivers aren't going out there with absolutely no grip. As a very interested Morgan Tilbrook watches on. His part of qualifying is done, of course, in GT3, but he wants to see how the team get on in GT4 qualifying. Both of their cars were in contention in the first session, and the number 90 machine looks to me like it'll be the first one to start a flying lap in Q4.
Yes, so this will be interesting to see how they get on the first lap, see how slippy it is. But worth saying as well, session 1, Ramyeed had an absolutely barnstormer of a lap, because being a Pro-Am lineup, you'd expect him to be quite a way off the silvers. He was within half a second of P1, 100th off P2, and quicker than another silver. Wow. So yeah, decent lap from Ramyeed in session 1.
Good point, well spotted, James. And of course now he hands that car over to Charlie Robertson. We know how quick Charlie Robertson can be. Oh, Chad Brown didn't want to go over that exit curve, did he, out of Cascades? He was a bit worried. Of course, that gets the most slippery, doesn't it? The curbing. Anything that's painted is like ice in these conditions. The car moving around a little bit through Island Bend, but he's managing to keep it on the island, no pun intended, for the time being. Round shell, and he is quickest of anybody so far in Sector 1. Most cars have completed a first sector. Although, interestingly, Jack Mitchell in that rapid 69 Lotus, has now gone through Sector 1 and is slower, quite comfortably slower than Jack Brown. So Jack Brown, we've picked the right driver to follow here, James. He's mastering the conditions nicely so far.
Yeah, seems that way, yeah. And, you know, the McLaren, interesting what Josh Miller said about he expected the McLarens and the BMWs to run away with it. So the Lotus car is definitely not expecting them to have pace, but they've definitely surprised them, even themselves in session 1. So let's see how they get on in session 2. And the McLaren in this first lap, though, definitely looks pretty good.
And to James's point earlier on, Jack Brown is a pro driver, so it's sort of the opposite now of the point James was just making in this particular session. We expect the Pro-Am cars maybe to have a slight advantage. So far, that's proving to be the case, although Charlie Robertson, I should say, is now quicker in Sector 2 than Jack Brown has gone, and in the first sector was only a couple of tenths off Brown's pace. So this is going to be quite close between McLaren and BMW, I reckon. Brown will set the benchmark, crosses the line. It is a 41.45, so we're a little bit slower than we were going in the session earlier on. Here is Charlie Robertson. So in the first sector, Brown was quicker. The second sector, Robertson was quicker. Over the lap, though, it is advantage BMW by 1,000th of a second, by quite literally the narrowest of margins. Robertson goes to provisional pole position, and with these conditions continuing to chop and change, who knows whether they'll go any quicker.
Yeah, we're still a little bit slower than session 1, so as you say, there's more to come here, I think. We're definitely going to go into the mid-40s, I think, but, well, providing it doesn't rain and the clouds do look a bit darker as the session goes on.
Mahiki watching on in the garage then. There's Charlie Robertson. Oh, the car is sideways. He's off the road. Robertson's off at Island Bend. It's raining really heavily here and at the top of the circuit. Is he destined for the barriers? There's no grip on the grass, but mercifully the BMW pulls to a standstill before the barriers. But if Charlie Robertson, provisional pole sitter, is struggling for grip, then the others surely will be feeling it as well. That, though, could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, literally, as I said, my last point, I turned around and it was just pouring with rain. And then I saw Robertson go off. So well saved, though. I mean, he was sort of a passenger at points there going on the grass, but got a bit lucky, saved it well, and can continue with the session, actually.
Amazingly, Aidan Neat has just pumped in a purple first sector, though, so he must have got there just before Charlie Robertson. Here he is, look, down at the Hislop chicane. So no, he'd have been there at about the same time. Neat, though, his Lotus finding grip where others can't. We'll get a middle sector time shortly. No, well off the pace, and you're shaking your head already. You could see from the body language of the car, James, that he doesn't have the grip.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it might be session over now. It's raining quite heavy and they're already losing lap time, so I don't think in the space of 5 minutes the track's going to dry up and give them the same grip they had 10 minutes ago. So, but yeah, Robertson, despite the off, could end the session on pole by 1,000.
Maybe the closest qualifying result in British GT history. I'm sure Tom Horsby will be on the case to figure that out. It might not end this way, though. Aidan Neat struggling in the conditions right now, but if it stopped raining, well, I don't know. We're getting dangerously close to losing the track, aren't we? By which I mean it will now be past the point of no return, and it isn't going to dry out in the remaining 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Charlie Robertson struggles through Lodge Corner. He's staying out, but others have pitted. We've got the Optimum McLarens, I think, both in the pit lane, and they look to be calling it a day. In a way, with 2 races to come on Monday, there's not a lot of point in going out there and taking a risk in these conditions, but there are those, I think, hoping that the rain stops and conditions get better. I don't see it, though, James.
I don't see it, but there is a trade-off where they could just be getting a bit of data and a bit of experience for Monday, because the weather does look a bit dubious on Monday. So, but it's a risky thing to play, as we saw Robertson almost stack hitting the barrier a couple of laps ago. So, yeah, I think the rain isn't easing up either.
This is the moment, James. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so this Island Bend, he's just got a wheel offline, and with the slippy surface, as soon as you go on the grass, there's really nothing you can do. It's like you go from 100% grip to 0 in 1 second, but kept out the barrier, and that's the main thing, so fair play.
And just out of the gravel as well. He was heading for that gravel trap, which was installed a number of years ago now to stop cars if they go off the track. Well, Charlie Robertson then with the save of the day. Yes, he still went off and spun, but he didn't do any damage to the Century Motorsport BMW, and so it looks as though he's going to be starting it from pole position on Monday afternoon for our second race of the weekend. It is properly raining now. The spectators, the hardy spectators, they don't mind a bit of rain in these parts. Absolutely. And what more would you expect from a hardy northern motorsport fan? But I fear that might be the last they see of British GT cars this afternoon, at least, as the conditions surely are going to usher drivers back into the pit lane. We'll see what happens. The Mahiki 84 car, I think, is heading in. The sister car surely will do the same thing. And it looks good for Charlie Robertson by 1,000th of a second, then faster than Jack Brown. Jack Mitchell then is third quickest. So 3 Pro-Am cars filling out the top 3 positions, as I suppose you'd expect, really. Aidan Neat is 4th in the 84 car. and fifth quickest for Harry George, the number 17 Optimum car. That's really the big loser, isn't it? Because it was right up at the front in Q1 or Q3, first GT4 session, not able to replicate that in the one flying lap that he got in the final part of qualifying. So Charlie Robertson heads to the pit lane. That means we've got no cars on track and 2 minutes of the session to go. Plenty of time for Bryn Lucas to try and catch up with some drivers who I'm sure will have some stories to tell after that one. The session technically is not over, but realistically, James, we've got our grid.
I think so, yeah. And a good day at the office for the 71 Century BMW, though. P3 in session 1, P1 in session 2. They've looked, and obviously they're coming off the back of the win at Silverstone, so unlikely they'll win race 1, but they're in the mix for race 2 now. So for their championship challenge, it's a good day.
That picture tells us it's not really raining anymore, but the damage is done. The track conditions are past the point of no return, at least within this session. And so it will be Century Motorsport doing the celebrating. We saw Charlie Robertson's big moment. I wonder what Ravi Ramid made of all of that. He was watching on down in the pit lane, and he has found Bryn Lucas to have a chat with.
Ravi, with you and the Optimum car doing a bit of a polka over this season, you know, winning and coming second between you, it does come down to fine margins. And a great start for you putting on 3, but Charlie out there was looking majestic before the rain fell.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was started to rain on my last lap. And I called it on the radio saying, look, it's getting wet. And for him to do what he's just done out there in the trench conditions, and we saw what happened when he pushed a bit too hard. So no, he did a fantastic job, really good.
He certainly did. It's a very early days in the championship. Charlie, coming in here, early days in the championship. And as I say, you are fighting out. It seems to be a 2-horse race at the moment between you and the Optimum car down the far end of Mark Warren and alongside Jack Brown. Are you already looking at that, or are you just at this moment going one race at a time, the old cliche?
No, I think it is very much one race at a time. And we're on a new tyre this year, and they're still playing with the BOP. You know, we saw it, the BOP was horrendous at Donington, and it's starting to come back a bit now. So hopefully it's going to settle down now, and we'll get some proper racing for the rest of the season.
Certainly is. Now, Charlie, you put in an absolutely fantastic lap there. It started to come down the rain, and then you had a bit of a moment yourself. We talked about doing the polka with the other Optimum car, but yourself there, a big pirouette out there. I mean, a squeaky moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, and you could see the rain coming down in the pit lane. And I said to Ben, our engineer, I said, just get me on the floor, and we can get to the end of the pit lane. I'll make my own space. And we were like 5th in the queue, and I could see the 90 McLaren was 1st in the queue, so they were going to get the best of the track. So I just had to set my own gap, and I got a good first 2 sectors on my best lap, and then the last sector was wet, so I had to survive. And I think I just got it by like a thousandth, but I reckon there was a lot more time in the car as it was, if it had been dry, obviously. And then we got to Island Bend, and I was a little bit up again because turn 1 and turn 2 were dry. So I was thinking, oh, this is good, it's drying up. And then it was wet, so that wasn't too good. And yeah, I turned in with a lift, which I'd never done before, and it was wet, so it wouldn't go too well. But I luckily kept out the barrier, and then just managed to chon the back round.
You're not the first person to go off there and do a pirouette like that, and you kept the foot buried, we saw as well, driving it like a fighter jet.
Oh yeah, buried on the brakes, not buried on the throttle. Yeah, it wasn't like, no, I was just hoping it would stop before the barrier, to be honest. And there's not really much you can do about it. The grass is wet, we're on slicks. It was, not my finest hour out there, but the lap was good, so happy to get pole.
Let's turn our attention to race 1 then Monday. You've got a nice day off between you, so you can go and have a nice bit of a rest. But when we come to the race, first race on Monday, you've got to pick your way through it and set yourselves up for race 2. It's a tricky thing, isn't it, Ravi, these 2 1-hour races?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, it's a sprint mentality, isn't it? You know, and round here it's hard to overtake, so it is literally eyes forward, go, elbows out, and do the best you can. So I know I quite enjoy the half-hour races. They really play to my strength as a driver, so I'm really looking forward to it.
So there you go. We'll have to wait and see, won't you, Charlie, to see what your compensation time will be in the pit stop come race 2, but it's all set up perfectly for a decent weekend.
Yeah, exactly. I said at the start of the week, track position's crucial, especially against, championship's hotting up now, so to be in front of them on the grid is a good start. Now we should see it through in the races.
Well done to you, and no brake trouble. I know that Chris Selkar's got some brake trouble. You two seem to be going fine. Well done. Job half done, do we call it? Quarter done. Anyway, well done.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Bryn. Great to hear from them. And, Century Motorsport coming out on top after a brief but certainly dramatic qualifying session. Second qualifying session for GT4. Charlie Robertson by 1,000th of a second. Fastest in the session. Funnily enough, not the first time that's happened here at Oulton Park. Back in 2020, James Baldwin would have been a part of this qualifying session. 1/1000th of a second separated the top 2 drivers in GT3. It's not even the first time that it's happened this year, because GT4 back at Donington Park, we had exactly the same margin, 0.001 seconds. Incredibly competitive this year in British GT. So the Century Motorsport BMW survives a scare, let's say, to put it mildly, to come out on top in the final part of GT4 qualifying, and of course the quickest Pro-Am car as well. Silver Cup led by the 84 Mahiki Racing Lotus, which starts race 1 on Bank Holiday Monday from overall pole position. So Charlie Robertson will be starting from pole for race 2, Jack Brown second, and as Bryn quite rightly made the point, they're the top two, they're joint championship leaders in GT4, and they were almost inseparable in qualifying. Jack Mitchell and Aidan Neat making an all-Mahiki row 2. Harry George is 5th for Optimum ahead of Jack Wheeler, and Brendan Templeton in the Century Motorsport BMW at the back of the GT4 grid. So the final part of GT4 qualifying, and just as the session began, umbrellas started to go up and rain started to come down on the Oulton Park circuit. It meant that it was a race against time, really, to get a lap time in before the conditions deteriorated, most drivers feeling that they had only the one opportunity to get the lap in. And that put a lot of pressure on these drivers. But for the most part, it was the more experienced drivers in the car. And as a result, they were able to get at least some reasonably good times out of the cars, even in the limited time available. 90 McLaren was fastest briefly early on, but then Charlie Robertson in the Century Motorsport BMW came across the line to pip them by 1,000th of a second. He was then off the road half a lap later, and as the rain came down heavily, everyone bailed for the pit lane, and it was the Century BMW that came out just about on top. So, qualifying done, but we can head back down to the pit lane, and we're going to sort of turn our attention back to GT3 and catch up with the Blackthorn Aston Martin driver, Giacomo Petrobelli, who was right in the hunt for pole position, Bryn, in his part of qualifying.
Yeah, he certainly was. I was talking to Johnny Adam a little bit earlier on, Giacomo, and he said, well, I'm saying it should be a mid-engine car track, and yet you seem to have a great amount of pace. And Johnny said, well, it may be that they've relayed certain areas, and that does help you here. You had a bit of a wobble earlier on as well, but you managed to put that to the back of your mind come qualifying.
Yeah, we had a busy morning, let's put it that way. We'll put that aside and sort of move on. Luckily, quali was good. I think clearly it didn't help us that we didn't do the preparation we wanted to do. But the car is good. They've relayed some of the surface here at Oulton, and the car is always good on new surfaces, so that helps. And I think we've been working away at the setup, and we finally, I think, are in a good window. So we're competitive. A
good result at Silverstone puts you in a strong position as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had the pace at Silverstone to do even better, but then strategy didn't play our way, and it's one of those. But I'm confident that with the pace we have, we should be in with a shout pretty much every weekend now.
We'll be keeping our eyes on you on Monday. 2 races coming Monday, and you've got to get yourself into the zone come Monday morning for race 1.
Yeah, and Rob alongside is a hard racer, so we'll certainly have some fun out there.
We wish you the very best luck. Thanks very much to Giacomo. Thank you. Back to you, Andy.
Thanks, Bryn. Well, yes, as Bryn quite rightly says, we've got 2 races coming your way on Bank Holiday Monday. The first one at 10:45, the second one at 3:50. Provisionally, we all know that things can change, especially with the unpredictable weather that we expect to continue over the bank holiday weekend. Now, of course we do. It's bank holiday weekend. Of course, the weather is going to have a part to play in it, but we expect 2 exciting races nonetheless, James, when we reconvene on Monday afternoon.
Absolutely, yeah. Make sure you tune in, GT World YouTube or Sky Sports F1. It's going to be a great day of racing. I can't wait.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. And Oulton Park, the 2 sprint races, it's one of my favourite weekends of the season. We do this twice, of course, Oulton Park and Snetterton. We have the 2 one-hour sprint races. Be sure to tune in to see whether those who came out on top in qualifying are able to do the same in race conditions. That is it, though, from qualifying Saturday here at Oulton Park. From myself, James and Bryn, we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again for your bank holiday fix of GT racing.